So we're going to move on to our next keynote speaker now. I'm going to really introduce you to Charlie Cannon. So Charlie is an experienced motivational speaker, a performance coach and an expert in resilience. After a traumatic event in his early 20s fundamentally changed his life, Charlie is now committed to working with individuals and teams to help them change theirs, transforming the way that they think, feel and behave in response to the challenges they face both at work and in life in general. He blends his expertise in performance psychology, leadership and well-being with real life stories and experiences to provide us with those take-home practical tools and actionable insights that can help us become better leaders. So this is going to be a really interactive session. So I really encourage you to put the chat box on fire and to ask your questions. And then just a little reminder, towards the end of Charlie's session, we will put a link to the evaluation in the chat box. So Karen will just prompt that at the end of the session. So I'll hand you over to Charlie and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you very much. So why is it that some of us manage change and uncertainty better than others? And why is it that some of us appear to adapt better to stress and can even perform better when under pressure? And why is it that some of us can recover from the worst experiences in life, yet even grow stronger from them? This is the topic of resilience. It's our ability to be able to withstand pressure, positively respond to adversity, whilst maintaining our performance and our well-being. It's our ability to grow, not crumble in the face of adversity. It's our ability to maintain that positive state of well-being, even in difficult times. And I believe it's the most important human capacity that you have, and I know that you have, that we can develop to meet the challenges not only of both our professional life but our personal life as well. And it's a topic I'm really, really passionate about and really looking forward to spending the next hour with you. It's a great privilege, like Paul said, to be here with you, and thank you so much for your support to all of you over the last year. Suzanne mentioned what an amazing achievement with amazing people, and I couldn't agree more. So let me start off with sharing my screen. Let's hope the technology works. Technology can be one of my resilience triggers. Let's see how we go. Let's share the screen. Let's see how we go. So, 1 second. Share screen. One second. Can we see the screen, everyone? Give me a thumbs up if we can see. Give me a hello if you can see the resilient leadership slides. Let me know. Could someone come off mute just to say that we've got it?
Yeah, got it.
Got it. Wonderful.
Yeah, got it.
Thank you. Just wanted to hit great stuff. All right, let's fire away. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm a psychologically trained coach and counsellor that's worked at the interface of leadership, performance and well-being for the last 10 years in lots of well-known brands, both in the public and private sector. I've also had the great privilege of working with some Olympic athletes. I also work very closely with Matthew Saeed, who works in performance in organizations. And also prior to working in organizations, I was a personal trainer. I was in the health and fitness industry for 10 years and had the great privilege of working actually with an Oscar-winning actor and actress. But most of my clients were busy people like yourselves, successful people like yourselves who are under pressure, and it was really looking and supporting them with healthy lifestyle and behavior change. And why am I so passionate about this topic of resilience is because I'm not a naturally resilient person. I'm sure many of you are way more resilient than I am. And this got highlighted for me when I was quite young because I aspired to be a professional athlete. That was my childhood dreams and aspirations. And I was pretty talented. I played rugby for England as a schoolboy. I played West of England hockey and county cricket. But even though I was very physically talented and I could play the game well, I struggled to perform under pressure. You know, that little voice in the head got the better of me when it really counted. Hands up if you recognize that you have a little voice in your head. Can I see some hands up there? If you're anything like me, you have a whole family up there, especially when you're just about to give a presentation. But it got me really curious, this, for me, struggling to perform under pressure and the importance of mindset in difficult contexts, you know, the importance of our mindset when difficult change. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it. And secondly, why am I passionate about it? Because life's challenging, isn't it? You know, and I learned this from a very, very young age, how challenging it could be. At 21 years old, I fell asleep at the wheel of a car going down the M4 on the motorway. And unfortunately, my sister was in the passenger seat and I woke up hitting the central reservation. Cut a long story short, we had a terrible accident. Car burst into flames. My sister was helicoptered off to Bristol French Hospital. Thankfully, one of the best brain injury units in the country. She was moments away from passing away. And that was my responsibility. I fell asleep at the wheel, but thankfully the surgeon that was due to turn her machine off had to get whisked into another operating theatre and her brain pressure dropped and she survived. And she is well. I am godfather to her children. She is one of my huge resilience heroes. But that taught me at a very young age, life can be incredibly challenging. And a lot of what I learned from resilience is about on the road to recovery from that instant. For me, there was a lot of psychological and emotional trauma. For my sister, it was more physical, but thankfully she is really well right now. So that's another reason why I'm really fascinated about resilience. So, you know, there's a little bit about me. So what are we going to talk about over the next hour? Well, Suzanne mentioned putting your own oxygen mask on first. I know in the helping professionals, and me, myself as a counsellor, we can be very good at helping others, but at times we're not the greatest at actually putting our own oxygen mask on first. And I believe it's the most important aspect of leadership. You are all leaders on this call today. And actually, one of the most important aspects is leading ourselves and leading ourselves first. Because if we don't lead ourselves first, we don't have the oxygen for others. This is one of my favorite leadership models here, me, team, and results. We won't get the results of whatever those results are unless we make sure we take care of me first and then in service of our teams. And typically in challenging times, we tend to diverse rather than actually focus on ourselves. And I really want to say that selfish is not a dirty word when it comes to self-care. It really isn't, because the more we take care of ourselves, the more energy we have, the better our mindset is, the better our attitude is, to be able to take care of the people that are most important to us, for us to be able to perform at work, for us to be able to maintain our well-being, and also have some energy for when we get home too. You know, let me ask you the question. Maybe we can get some responses in the chat box. And please do, let's hear the responses. I can't see the chat box, so please do chat back. You know, what do you think the most important relationship is in your life? Honestly, which relationship is the most important? Let me know. Put it in the chat box. So let's get the chat box fired up. Which do you think the most important relationship is in your life? And let me hear. Get your fingers going. We're going to get your fingers moving very quickly today. We're going to keep it high energy and interactive. What have we got there? What responses have we got from that?
You want some feedback, Charlie?
Yeah, that would be lovely. Let's keep the feedback coming from now on. Yeah. What do we?
So quite a lot saying with your family, with yourself, with children.
Absolutely.
Me.
Incredibly important relationships. I've got a little 10-year-old girl, you know, and a family. But I would argue, you know, and we don't necessarily think this, actually, it's ourselves first. Because if I'm under stress and I'm under pressure, I'm not going to be a great dad. You know, I'm not going to be able to really take care of my family the best way I can if I am not investing in myself. Okay, so it's about putting attention on ourselves and working as hard on ourselves as our job, you know. And if we have great energy, we can pass that on to others as well. So today's really about giving you some practical, pragmatic tools on how to put your own oxygen mask on first. Okay, moving on. Why is it important as leaders? Because we cast a shadow, don't we? We cast a shadow. I love some of the questions that Paul asked around, when you were well and when you were performing well, when you had great resilience and well-being, what were you thinking and feeling? What were you thinking and feeling about the organization? When we're at our best, we cast a certain type of shadow. And as leaders, we're role modeling and people are watching us. But when we're not at our best, and if anything like me, I'm not at my best as well. None of us are perfect, but it then casts another type of shadow, doesn't it? So we can see as leaders, we have a responsibility with the shadow that we cast. So how do we define resilience? And look, today we're going to be looking at personal resilience. I really want to support you personally today. I want you to take away some practical, relevant things that you can implement straight away. My fascination is in behavior change. I'd love to be a catalyst today for you to change your behavior around your resilience so you have better well-being for yourselves and your family as well. So here's a helpful definition of resilience. It's a capacity to withstand pressure and positively respond to adversity whilst maintaining your well-being and performance. We saw the link, didn't we, between well-being and performance with Paul. But why is that important for you personally? I want you to look at that definition now and tell me why. Step into your role. You know your role. I'm never going to understand the pressures and challenges that you face. Okay, you know it. But why do you think resilience is crucial? I believe if we want to create behavior change, it's 80% why and 20% how we do it. So you tell me, why is it important for you, both personally and professionally? And let's put that in the chat box and let's get some responses straight away. I really want you to connect to why. Why would this capacity be important for you? This capacity to withstand pressure, positively respond whilst maintaining. Let's get some responses in. Let's get your fingers fired up. Let's get it in the chat box and let's hear back of why is it important.
Okay, so we've got a couple of comments to start with saying, I know, the self-compassion should come first, but, need to work on that because it's tricky.
Yeah,
most
it is.
Areas naturally put others before themselves. Obviously, that's the profession a lot of us are in.
Yeah.
And in response to your questions, so I'm able to help others. Keep your head above the water.
Yeah.
If we can't, then it will impact negatively on the rest of our teams.
Yeah.
Personally, to be well and happy. Professionally, to be the best for patients and staff. It allows for you to actually enjoy life.
Yes.
Enjoy the simple things.
Absolutely.
Here's another one, because if pressure causes performance to drop, then the consequences can be life and death in terms of patient safety.
Absolutely, life and death. And you can see how important this is. And look, and I'm not saying that this is easy around us putting our attention on ourselves when we have an orientation to go outwards. But it's something that we can work on. And thank you for stepping into the why it's important. Here are some other reasons as well. Look, it can protect you. If we develop our resilience, yes, it can also, support our happiness. I couldn't agree more. It also protects us against depression and anxiety. I mean, hands up who've struggled at times over the last year. I know I have. I lost 90% of my business in the first week of lockdown because I was a conference speaker. There aren't any external conferences now, and I have to say I found it incredibly difficult to remain resilient. To really remain resilient and keep my mindset well. So it protects us against depression and anxiety. And there's a 400% global rise in depression and anxiety at the moment. It enables us to manage our challenges with confidence. It improves our relationships. It helps you achieve your goals, increases our motivation and drive, and helps you live a meaningful and fulfilling life. So hopefully, we can really see the why of resilience. And for me, resilience actually develops well-being. If we focus on the resilience, we will support our well-being. Now, look, it's not just about, just as Paul said, I really like what he said about the offset and then going to the root of things. Now, this is not just about, you developing your individual resilience. I'm never going to understand how challenging the environment has been for you the last year. It must have been relentless at times. And obviously, of course, our resilience is going to get massively impacted when we're in a high pressure context. I spent a couple of years working in the Metropolitan Police as an external consultant. Again, another really challenging environment where resilience is going to get impacted. It's not just about the individual developing the resilience, it's also about the environment. So resilience is a dynamic process that is an interaction between the individual and the environment. But my question to you as leaders, how can you shape that environment? What are the things that are within your control that you can change and do to make it as facilitative as possible? And times it can be really difficult when it's incredibly high challenge, which no doubt it has been. But what we're looking to do as much as possible is create high challenge and high support environments. I think it's important to share what resilience is not. Look, it's not about being a Superman or Superwoman. In fact, for me, resilience is a relational quality. It's a human quality, like Paul mentioned. Sometimes resilience is having the courage to be vulnerable and put your hands up. I certainly did. When I saw my business disappear, it was definitely about putting my hands up and finding out who could I ask for help. It's about bouncing back. It's not just about bouncing back. Sometimes we see resilience is just about bouncing back, but actually we can use our challenges at times to grow. Sometimes it's about bouncing forward. It's more than just coping. I think one of the things that the accident has taught me that we need to be proactive resilience. Challenge is inevitable in life, both personally and professionally. None of us can get away with that. We're all going to face extreme difficult circumstances, and no doubt some of you have felt this and experienced this over the last year. So it's got to be, for me, proactive, not reactive. So resilience is about health for me. It's not about being bulletproof or invulnerable. If anything, it's about being the courage to be vulnerable. And it's not about either you have it or you don't. It's context specific, because many of you will be far more resilient than I am in certain contexts, and maybe I'll be more resilient than you in other contexts, but it's not. The context shapes our resilience. And what's really important is we can learn it and we can train it. We know from neuroplasticity that we can train resilience. I want to say it's okay to be not okay at times, and it really is not weak to speak. It's really not weak to speak. So I've done enough talking for a minute. Let's ask another question. Resilience is a dynamic state depending on the challenges you face and the resources that you have to meet the challenges. I want you to think back now of a time when you needed to be resilient. Maybe it's the last year. Maybe it's another time in your life that you found really, really challenging. What helped you get through that? What were the sources of the support that enabled you both internally and externally to get through that challenging time? Now, the internal things are things like meditation, mindfulness that we just did with Ian. Mindfulness is a way to help us internally. Internally could be your attitude. It could be your values. It could be the way you take care of your energy. These are internal things. External things are friends, a family, the environment, nature. Things on the outside could be music. So maybe just write in the chat box, maybe tell me a little, what was the challenging time? And then really let's look at what the resources are. What helped you both internally and externally? Let's put those resources right into the chat box now. Put them in. Let's learn from each other around the resources that supported you. I think it's really important to recognize how resilient you already are. And to recognize and draw strength on from experience, because that's another way that we gain perspective and supports our resilience. So let's get in the chat box. What were some of your sources of support, whether it's through the last year, and look at it internally and externally. And if you want to share what the challenging time was in the chat box, please do feel free to do it too. Thank you.
So some feedback for you, Charlie, a lot around obviously friends, your partner, how important that is, green space, outdoor exercise, alone time, music, walking outdoors.
Absolutely.
Coming so quick, I can't keep up. There's one here that says, being my future friend.
Yes. Love that idea, being a future friend. Wonderful. What else we got? Keep coming.
Family, exercise outdoors, yoga, good night's sleep, so important.
Isn't it so important? God, I think for me, that's one of the biggest coping strategies is sleep. agree more. What else have we got?
We've got dog walking.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't got a dog.
Dog.
I think is said.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on a minute. There's a good one here about a team that came together to make a song.
Oh, fantastic. So, actually having a common purpose, like no doubt you've had a common purpose over the last year, actually can be an incredibly important aspect of resilience is vision, and doing something that matters. I love that. Coming together as a storm, we get connection, we get relational resilience there. Beautiful. I love the dog walking. Obviously, animals give us oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone, which helps us feel safe in difficult times. So anything that helps us feel safe is so important for resilience. Anything else in there that hasn't been mentioned? These are great resources.
Yeah, so now the ones that I would expect to come up are coming up. Netflix, diet. I'm amazed nobody said alcohol.
Yeah, I'm sure there's got to be a drink or two in there.
Baking and cooking, raising money for charity. So something around purpose, I guess. Reflecting on the positives.
Right. Reflecting on the positives. Yeah, giving. Brilliant. Okay, so my request for you is you are resilient. What works for you? It starts with self-awareness. If we're going to, we're looking at self-leadership here in service that you can lead others better. It starts with an awareness. What works for you? Well, do it. Make sure that you know that these things, asking for help works for you, then fantastic. Exercise works for you, fantastic. Being outside works for you. Netflix works for you. Looking for those healthy coping strategies that help. So you always know in those difficult times, and sometimes it can be really difficult, you can go to your resources, because resilience is a dynamic state. Depending on the challenges we face and the resources we have to meet the challenges. And we got to think about those resources both personally, but resources externally from our team as well, from our environment. And also maybe preparing and priming ourselves at times for when we know, and sometimes this is difficult, when times are going to be challenging and we have the resources to meet those challenges. So let's go into some top tips here. So if we look at the research and resilience, one of the big things that come out with resilient people or people who show resilience in certain circumstances is they have this ability to control the controllables, to focus on what's within their control and not to overly stress and worry about the things that are outside of their control. Haven't we had a great example over the last year and a half? Because if we worry too much about the things outside of our control, that can create unnecessary stress and then suffering for ourselves. And how do we challenge ourselves? How do we train our mindset to control the controllables? And I want to focus on one thing that I think is one of the most important assets that you have as a leader to control. And I believe it's one of the most important assets, and that's your energy. As leaders, you are conductors of energy. Sometimes we're conducting positive energy, sometimes we're not, if you're anything like me. But we are conductors and we transmit our energy. But before we conduct it, we need to know how to generate it. Because if we don't generate our energy, if we don't take care of our energy, what happens? We want to ignite positive energy, but what happens? We can end up being a bit of a dark angel. I know I've had moments certainly throughout lockdown that I have been a dark angel. Unfortunately, probably transmitted that to my little daughter at times when I haven't been at my best and haven't been taking care of my energy as well. But energy, I believe, is one of your most important assets. And let's look at energy now from a place of mindset. Because as I mentioned, I'm really passionate about this idea that mindset is crucial to our resilience. So let's talk about mindset by using a metaphor, a really simple metaphor, but it also is strongly connected to our energy. And I call this metaphor being in and out of the box. When we're in the box, we're not at our best. When we're out of the box, we're at our best. We all go in the box. I go in the box. You go in the box. As human beings, we all go in the box. There's nothing we can do about it. We do go in there, but we can become very good at getting out of the box and recognizing when we're in there. So let me just describe this metaphor. So first of all, put your hands up. Hands up if you felt some of these feelings over the last maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Let's just check that you're human. How many of you felt frustrated at all, resentful at all, maybe anxious a little bit, maybe lacking in confidence at all, stressed, overwhelmed? Has anyone found themselves being a bit self-critical, being hard on themselves, or maybe being critical of others? Just put your hands up if you recognize that you've had some of those things. Yeah. Okay, so we're human. So that's like that's in the box. When we have some of those feelings, we also have some unhelpful thoughts as well. So similar to when Paul said, when you weren't resilient and you didn't have great well-being, what were your thoughts and your feelings like? That's what I would call an in the box place when we're not at our best. All right. And we all go in there. We're not judging it. We go there. We're in the box. When we're out of the box, it's different. And I bet many of you have felt some of these feelings over the last couple of weeks, where you felt productive, you're confident, you're motivated, you're creative, you're energized, you're calm, you can connect well with others, and you're clear-headed. I'm sure you've experienced some of those. And that's out of the box. And it's a very different experience of life when we're out of the box. But let's have a look at the consequences of when we're in the box. All right. No judgment from me. We all go in there. But you tell me, imagine now you're in a small box, all right, and you have some of those feelings inside of you, all right, and you've got some thoughts that are probably whirring around in response to those feelings. What's it like for you when you're in your box? Type some things in the chat box now. Let's be honest and open. I can be a bit grumpy. I can certainly be a bit judgmental at times, and certainly pessimistic at times when I'm in there, and a bit snappy. What about you? What do you like when you are in the box or not at your best? Let's hear some responses back from you.
So we've got exhausting, isolated, snappy, low impatience.
Yes.
Irritable, pessimistic, self-doubting. Yeah. For me, I just want to cry.
Yeah, hands up. I get it. I totally get it. Yeah. What else have we got?
Judgmental. That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Short-tempered.
Yeah.
Lonely. Avoidant. Fragile.
Totally. Yeah. Lonely, avoidant, fragile, vulnerable. Don't we? We can. Angry, can't we? Anything else? What's the impact on your leadership when you're in the box? Let's make this strong connection between this metaphor and leadership. And again, there's no judgment. It's just building awareness of like when we're in the box. And don't forget, resilience is impacted by our environment. So we're under stress and under pressure. We're more likely to be in the box, aren't we? But what are the consequences on our leadership? Type some responses in the box there. When we're in the box, what's the impact on our leadership? What do we notice? What can the impact be on our decisions? Our ability to influence, our ability to motivate. Well, what responses have we got there?
So we've got about not being there for others, very task focused, so you block everything else out.
Yes.
Less able to make decisions, become unapproachable as a leader.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can see can't we, when the difference between us when we're in the box and the out the box, we can see the connection between our attitude and being in the box and being out the box. We can see the connection between our mindset and our leadership. All right, okay, so what's the difference? What's it like? What's work like when you're out of the box? What's the difference? What's life like when you're out of the box? Similar to that Paul's question, what's it like? How's it working when you're outside? And look, when we're out of the box, it doesn't mean that there are not challenges. I have a background in sport. I was just watching Djokovic win the French Open. I love my tennis, and what a high pressure context, in sport there. But he somehow found the ability to be at his best and win. So it's not that actually when we're out of the box, there aren't challenges. Yes, there are challenges. And I'm sure many of you through this last year have been out of the box in the most challenging circumstances. So what's the difference for you when you're out of the box? What's life like? Let's get some responses for that.
So loads of stuff around more energy, challenges become fun, rewarding, more energy, yeah. Enthusiastic, can-do attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's enthusiasm, there's a can-do attitude. We can see the connection between energy, can't we, when we're in the box to when we're out of the box. All right, so I'm going to learn from. Yeah, go on, keep coming. Yeah, lovely. What else we got?
Healthier, empowered, energizing, fun. Just all lots of energy words and words about flow, being in flow as well.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Flow, absolutely. When we're at our best, often we are in flow. Those wonderful moments where kind of time slows down and we're fully engaged in the present moment and being at our best. Optimal psychological experiences, those. And our energy is great, and what is, and our emotions are great. Our emotions are great. What our emotions is just energy in motion. That's what emotions are. But our emotions determine the quality of our life. When we're feeling good and feeling better, our life is better, doesn't it? So when we're in the box or out of the box, it shapes our perception of reality. We see the world differently when we're out of the box than when we're in the box. And there's no judgment for going in the box. But what's the consequences on ourselves when we spend too much time in the box? Let's get some responses. What are the consequences on ourselves? Let's really look at this. When we spend too much time in the box, what are the consequences? What's the impact on us? Again, one of the leverages for change is to really look at the consequences of things. We find out our why, but we also go, okay, so what's the impact on me when I spend too much time in there? Let's get some responses to that.
So, as you would expect, I guess going to the opposite end of the spectrum, loss of perspective on reality, getting exhausted, depression, physically, emotionally drained,
absolutely.
Perspective again, yeah.
Absolutely. So hands up who would like to spend more time out of the box. And I want you to teach me. I want to learn from you as well of how to do this. But we can see the importance of it. We can see the importance of being in and out of the box and our connection to our energy. We can see the importance in our connection to our leadership as well. All right. So first of all, if we're really honest, though, what is it that kind of keeps us in the box? Not what puts us in there, but what is it? What are one of the things that keeps us inside that box? Obviously, the environment plays a part. Absolutely, the environment plays a part. I understand. But what is it often that kind of keeps us in there? If we're really honest with ourselves, what responses have we got from that? Again, obviously, the environment shapes us, but kind of what keeps us in there over a period of time. If we look at it from a self-leadership perspective, what have we got? What responses have we got there?
We've got fear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how I talk to myself sometimes feels safe, familiar in there.
Yeah, I agree. It sometimes can feel safer to be in there. And I love what you said, how we talk to ourselves. Absolutely. What else have we got there? Fear, absolutely.
Having the energy to pull ourselves back out.
Yeah. Lacking in energy, totally. So yeah, absolutely. I would argue that one of the big things that keeps us in there is the narrative. It's the narrative that we're telling ourselves about this situation. Some people call this narrative chatter. It's the unhelpful voice in the head. The one I got you to put your hands up to recognize. And this is a wonderful book by Ethan Kross, who's one of the leading psychological scientists in the world that's researched the chatter in your head. And that chatter in your head can really shape our perception of reality. It can really undermine our resilience. And for me, it's that narrative that actually is the thing that keeps us stuck often, that keeps us in there. Yes, the environment plays a part, of course it does. Yet the narrative often is the thing that keeps us stuck. And so it's about, understanding how we can unhook from that narrative. And that narrative shows up in many different ways. Which one of yours does it show up for you? Have a look at this. Where would you say some of your toxic chatter patterns are? If you were to be honest and open, which one of yours is it about self-criticism? Are you overly harsh on yourselves? Is it about unhealthy perfectionism? Do you get caught in loops of worry and anxiety? Do you find yourself blaming others rather than blaming yourself? Do you tend to focus on the negative more often rather than having a balanced perspective potentially? Do you tend to catastrophize and overly fantasize? Maybe write down, let's be honest, which ones, we've all got them. I know I've got them. I can certainly go into the kind of the self-critical bit at times. I certainly have a bit of a perfectionist driver and get triggered at times. That gets triggered for me. And if I'm really under-resourced and lacking in energy, I certainly can go into kind of a doom and gloom perspective. What about you? Which one of what would you say again? And look, this is about the courage to be vulnerable. It's recognizing we're human beings. None of us are perfect. We all have chatter patterns that prevent us from being at our best. And the key is to have some self-awareness and recognize which ones are yours. So what have you got? You know, let's own it. Which are your chatter patterns that keep you in that box at times? The key and the catalyst is self-awareness. You know, if we can get some distance, like Ian was doing with the mindfulness, some distance from our thinking and feeling, we're less likely to get hooked and stay in the box. What have we got there? Is anyone putting in some of their toxic chatter patterns?
We've got all of them. Unhelpful worrying, imposter syndrome, personally catastrophic fantasizing is my absolute favourite. What else? Unhelpful worrying.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we're all human here. Okay, so look, you notice we've all got this, and this is one of the things that so again, it starts with self-awareness. And why do we have this? Look, let's humanize it. Let's build some self-compassion for ourselves. As human beings, our brains have evolved because of a negativity bias. Our brains have evolved to scan our environment for threats and things that could go wrong, because it's for survival. So we're constantly scanning our environment. You know, a negative experience in the brain weighs far heavier than a positive experience. One of my teachers says that a negative experience is like Velcro, it sticks to the brain. And a positive experience is like Teflon, it bounces off. Hence why we really need to work on being realistically optimistic, why we really need to work on being appreciative and grateful, because the default for all of us is a negativity bias. But I think this also can give us compassion and kindness to ourselves when we're being overly judgmental, overly fearful, overly anxious, overly worrying. Because let me ask you the question. If 40,000 years ago, if you and I were walking in the bushes together and we heard a rustle, if both of us weren't paranoid and a bit anxious, what would have happened to us? You tell me, what would have happened to us if both of us didn't have a little bit of anxiety and a bit of worry? Well, you know what happens to the story there. So our brains have evolved that way, hence why it can feel like inside of us at times this in-the-box experience can shape our reality. But we know, which is exciting, through neuroplasticity, we can actually change the structures of our brain. We can do it by deliberate practice. And I think by developing resiliency skills is one of the most important things that we can do. And I know all of you have practices already. But let's just look what helps you get out of the box. You tell me, what are your favorite strategies of getting out of the box? Go for it. Let me know. Tell me now. What are your favorite strategies? What are your favorite strategies of getting outside of the box? Tell me.
Just as they're coming through, Charlie, mine personally is always to tell really bad jokes, just have a sense of humour about stuff.
Yeah, keep going.
Something about scaling, isn't it?
Yeah.
The others, talking to a friend, take some time out, good night's sleep, positive, being positive. What else? Taking a break and looking at other perspectives.
Taking a break, getting perspective, absolutely. Humour, fantastic.
Get on my bike.
Yeah, getting on the bike, totally. You got some wonderful, wonderful hills, haven't you? Up, I was actually at school up in Skipton, not a million miles away. We got beautiful hills to cycle up there. What else have we got? Any other things that can help?
Wine, good book, and sitting in a hot tub. So I don't know who said that, but I'm going around there later.
You're going to borrow that one.
Yeah, appreciating the simple things in life.
Yes.
Walks again. A new project, so a new focus.
Fantastic, awesome. Look, brilliant. Okay, so this, you know, when we're out of the box, our energy is great, everyone. So we want to commit to being out of the box. It starts with self-awareness. You know, becoming aware of when we're in the box. You know, when if we've recognized we've gone in the box, we're already taking 1 foot out. We're already taking 1 foot out. When we're in the box, we have this predisposition to judge ourselves, which only puts us in the box even deeper. Recognize that inner critic of yours. It's not helpful when we're in the box. See if we can let go of the inner critic and have some self-compassion versus self-criticism. Be kind to yourself. We all go in the box as human beings. We all go in the box, all right? We all have stress and suffering at times. Recognize the common humanity. Breathing is a powerful tool. We know that can completely help us. You know, our mind does catastrophize. It's what it does. It's designed to do that. Okay, so get to the facts. One of my favorites is a BMW, excuse my language, a bitch, moan and a whinge. Sometimes we need to have a healthy rant, you know, find a partner, shift your body, shift your perspective, ask for help. It's not weak to speak. Coach yourself, talk to yourself in a positive way. You know, if you use your name in the third person, that's one of the quickest ways to get distance from our mind. Like, Charlie, you've got the capacity to rise to this challenge. Charlie, your slide deck has not loaded many times before. You will be okay. You know, this actual third person using your name can actually help get cognitive distance. Count to 10. That helps us re-engage that prefrontal cortex that Paul mentioned, that's often disengaged when we're in the box. Okay, so this for me is one of the most important leadership skills, is to be out of the box and finding resources to do it, as well as doing our best to shape our environment. So what else have we got? Gratitude. Let's take a moment just to write some things that you're appreciative for. I want to hear from you. Let's get a list going. Let's tap into, like, what are you appreciative for right now? What are you grateful for? We know that the attitude of gratitude, there's so much evidence-based psychology and science to show that it's like a meta skill for happiness if we can train our brain to focus on things that are going well in our life. So why don't you tell me some things right now that you're appreciative for? Let's have a bit of a wave down the chat box of gratitude. What have we got there? Can we hear some appreciation?
Yeah, with fresh air, living in Northumbria, my husband, not my husband, obviously their husband, friends, family, and my dog, good health, family, being able to go up hills, gardening, flowers.
Fantastic. Beautiful. So a simple skill that you can do at the end of each day is just to write 3 things that have gone well today, or 3 things that you're grateful for and why. It doesn't have to take long, a couple of minutes, and that starts shifting our brain to focus on the things that are going well, which immediately makes us start to feel better. When we feel better, energy in motion, we're more out of the box. Okay, it's not about being unrealistically optimistic. That's not what I'm saying. It's about being realistically optimistic in life. It's about having a balanced perspective. But our default is often the negativity bias because of our evolutionary psychology and biology. So gratitude is crucial. Another thing that I really think is important if we want to be out of the box and have great energy is winning the morning. If we win the morning, we win the day. I'm a big believer of this. If you start the day off wrong, you're more likely to bring that into your day. A lot of the work that I did throughout lockdown, whether it was, I've done some work in the other parts of the NHS, the police, but I was talking about controlling the controllables and helping people have a resilient day, because we didn't know what was going to happen in the future. So one of the things that can help us have a resilient day, if we prioritize it the morning, even if it's just for 5 minutes to kickstart your day off well. Maybe don't get on the mobile phone straight away first thing in the morning, because often the mobile phone is full of triggers for us that can send our thoughts and feelings off to being in the box. What helps people win the morning and win the day? You tell me. What are some of your favorite things that support you to kick off your day well? And there's been some fascinating research into this. Tim Ferriss, one of the most successful podcasts now in the world, interviewed some of the most successful people on the planet, and they all actually had morning routines. He was surprised by this. You know, they had rituals. It was one of the common themes that came out, and it wasn't jumping on the emails straight away. The 3 most common things were actually exercise, some form of gratitude, and some form of reflection. So what do people do? What have we got there that help people win the morning and win the day?
Yeah, we've got a lot of coffee, as you would imagine. Cuddle, that's nice.
Yeah.
A good cup of coffee and some good music. A walk in the morning. Somebody walks by the river every morning. Having breakfast outdoors. I wonder if they do that in February. Don't read. Early morning outdoor swim. A good hair day, can relate.
Brilliant. I love it.
Say hello to everyone.
Fantastic. I love it. So look, you know, I want you to be a bit more intentional. Why do I think this is important? Obviously, my interest in psychology, but I've noticed we can get bitten by ants first thing in the morning. What are ants? Ants are automatic negative thoughts. Do you know that we have 12,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them are more negative? Ants are those automatic negative thoughts that just arise, that we can get hooked on, that just lead us off into an unhealthy direction in our day, can shape our day, can mean that we feel in the box, we go down and having breakfast with our family and we're a bit in the box. So I think it's really important to kick the day off well, maybe with just a bit of breathing, a tiny bit of exercise. One simple thing you can do is when you put your feet on the floor in the morning, you just say to yourself, I'm going to have a good day. That intention in itself can be helpful. You can learn something, you can read something, maybe just have a digital divorce for the first 15 minutes of the day. Cold shower for many can be really helpful to boost your mood. Wim Hof, who might have heard of him, is great into his cold showers and breathing. But it's a way to prime your day so that's one of my big tips, okay? If you want to have a resilient day. Let's going. What else have we got here? Okay, we've mentioned the importance of recovery. Suzanne mentioned the importance of this, and no doubt at times you must have felt like it's been completely relentless over the last year and a half. I want you to think about respecting recovery, that's within your control. That's within your control, okay? As a former athlete, I didn't quite make it, but I do know a lot about sports conditioning and had the great privilege of working in elite sport. And as athletes, they respect recovery. Because they know if they don't respect recovery, they're not going to perform well. They're not going to be at their best. They're not going to grow stronger or run faster. It really is important to respect recovery for our well-being and our performance. I learned a wonderful story about Richard Bannister, who came from not too far away from you in Cumbria, the man that broke the 4-minute mile. 2 weeks before he ran the 4-minute mile, he went off to walk up in Cumbria in the Pennines. For 2 weeks, he went just for walking. Everyone thought he was mad. Like, why aren't you getting some last-minute training in before breaking the 4-minute mile? He didn't. He went off with some friends. He had some great conversations. He did some gentle exercise and walking. He was around in nature, a wonderful way to get recovery, ability to gain perspective. And when he went to race the 4-minute mile, he broke it. There was a belief that could never be broken. He respected recovery. So athletes think about recovery from a perspective of periodization. Why do we want to respect recovery? Because we end up in the burnout zone or that survival zone. If we want to be high performers, we want to respect that bottom right-hand quadrant. How do you do it for yourself? What do you do? We want to think about recovery from a macro and a micro perspective. How can you support others to recover a little bit during the day? It doesn't take much. 3 deep breaths can actually shift us over onto that right-hand side at times, as long as it's not chronic burnout. But it starts with self-awareness. What percentage of the quadrants have you been over the last year? How can you shift yourself over to that right-hand side? DHEA is a vitality hormone, by the way, and cortisol is a really important hormone, but we just don't want too much of it. And the sympathetic is the kind of the accelerator part of the nervous system, and the parasympathetic is the brake. And actually, this model developed out sports psychology because they realized they were looking at what separated the top 100 tennis players from the top 10 tennis players. And what separated was the ability of those top 10 tennis players to be able to recover between points. Your ability to be able to recover between meetings. That capacity for us to be able to get into a more of a parasympathetic state in the day, not just when we're trying to get to sleep at night. So why don't we just take a few deep breaths now, just to honor a bit of recovery. You can just use this GIF here to do an inhale and an outhale. Use breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your nose, because when we breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, it elicits that parasympathetic nervous system that can start making us feel safer inside. It helps us shift to the right-hand side. And we can do this anywhere at any time. You can do it with your eyes open. You can do it in a meeting. We can actually even train ourselves to do this in the most difficult of circumstances, just like Djokovic did before he serves, or Andy Murray did just before he won Wimbledon. 3 deep breaths. So we can use our breath as a powerful tool to help us get into that recovery space, but also when we're under pressure. Okay, so what else can we do to think about recovery strategically? And I want you to think about this as leaders in the organization, you know, but first of all, we're prioritizing you, putting your own oxygen flask on first. I want you to prioritize your recovery. So macro recovery is thinking about your holidays, thinking about when you can take a holiday, thinking about when you can take a break. I believe we cannot work longer than 90 days without taking a 4-day break. And if you can't manage 4 days, at least put 3 days of recovery in. Get yourself off your mobile phones, get yourself off technology, find a way to recover and recharge. Think strategically about it, map your year, sit down with your partner and talk about when you're going to get away. Respect recovery from a macro perspective. And then you want to think about it on a micro perspective. Think about all the small ways that you can recover during the day, little mini recharges, whether it's breathing, whether it's making sure that you actually have lunch, not at your desk. You know, you chew it, you digest it. Practice some mindfulness that Ian is speaking is a wonderful way to learn to go from being to doing. We don't just want to have our foot on the accelerator the whole time in life. We've got to respect the brake as well. And don't forget, this does support well-being and performance as well. Athletes show us that when they recover harder, they actually perform better. Okay, so that's about thinking about recovery. We can't not think about recovery without talking about the most important coping strategy that you have is improving the quality of your sleep. And a deep empathy for any insomniacs on the call right now. You might have heard all of these tips before and it still doesn't work. But for the majority of us, these tips can work. You know, I really think we need to treat sleep as a priority, not a luxury. It is the most important coping strategy and it's massively connected to leadership and performance as well. Let's just give you a quick few tips. I think my top tip is to get this mobile phone out of the bedroom. It can wreak havoc. You know, our eyes don't know the difference between looking at a mobile phone and looking at sunlight, which produces cortisol, which means we don't get into recovery. Get into a nice, good time bedtime routine. Do the same every night if you can. Lower the lights down. Have a bath. You know, right now it's wonderful to have a cold bath when there's heat and a cold shower because actually the temperature change helps produce melatonin, which helps us sleep better. Watch out that caffeine and alcohol intake, everyone. I'm not saying not to have it, but caffeine I would stop after lunch if you can, or limit it because we want to relax our nervous system as we head towards bed. And unfortunately, alcohol does impair our sleep. I'm really sorry about that. But when you want to be at your best, we've got to be mindful of that. Herbal teas can be wonderful to help you sleep well. I'm a big fan of something called ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, holy basil. It's a sacred herb from India, helps relax the nervous system. Okay, so there's some top tips. Practice breathing, binaural beats. That's just music that helps relax our brainwave states. Magnesium is a wonderful supplement that most of us are deficient on now, which can help with our energy and also help us sleep. Balancing your blood sugar levels, so not having too much sugar and exercising. All great ways to help us sleep.
I'm just going to give you, it's just literally 2 minutes, so we'll so an opportunity for anyone else to jump in and obviously for me just to sum up quickly at the end. Right. Sorry to jump in. That's
okay. Let me just finish it off. Last things here. Let's just make sure that we've got a bit of movement, everyone. Non-exercise, you know, Nelson Mandela said, exercise was the savior of my soul. Exercise can be a great way for us to be able to get rid of the stress, everyone. Get rid of the stress. So lastly, let me just finish off right at the end here. Is just thank you so much. Hopefully you've got some practical suggestions there to support your resilience. Do go away and just do one thing. I'm a big believer that if we just do one thing, small thing consistently over time, that creates positive change. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your engagement and your focus. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Charlie. Sorry we haven't got time for sort of some Q&A at the end, but if anybody has got any questions, please put them in the chat and we can pick them up afterwards. I'm sure Charlie won't mind responding to any. Getting some really positive vibes and some really positive feedback, so that's great. Everyone's really enjoyed it by the sounds of it.